There is a reason this message found you today, and it is far more personal than your soulmate ever imagined. They recently learned something that has completely changed the way they remember your story, and ever since that moment, one question has echoed through their heart without giving them peace. Why did you continue choosing love when you had every reason to choose revenge? From the outside, they believed your silence meant you had simply moved on. They assumed your kindness came naturally because you were unaffected by what happened. But the truth they have just discovered tells a completely different story. They now understand that every act of compassion you showed came after moments that could have easily made your heart bitter. Listen carefully, because not every victory is visible. Some of the greatest victories happen inside a heart that refuses to let pain decide who it becomes. Your soulmate is beginning to see that while others expected you to fight back, prove a point, or make those who hurt you feel the same pain, you quietly chose a different path. At the time, they could not understand it. They wondered why you walked away from arguments instead of winning them. They questioned why you remained respectful when disrespect would have been easier. They even believed there were moments when you should have defended yourself more forcefully. But someone who understood your journey finally explained what your soulmate had never been able to see on their own. They explained that choosing love was never the easy option for you. It was the hardest decision you made over and over again. It required you to release anger you had every right to hold, to protect your peace instead of feeding resentment, and to refuse becoming the kind of person your pain was trying to create. That explanation has left your soulmate deeply emotional because they now realize they misunderstood your greatest strength. They thought forgiveness meant you had forgotten what happened. They believed kindness meant the wounds were small. They assumed your calmness meant your heart had never truly been broken. But now they understand that every peaceful response carried an invisible sacrifice. Every gentle word represented a battle no one else witnessed. Every moment you chose grace instead of revenge was a quiet decision to preserve the goodness inside your soul, even when life gave you countless reasons to let it disappear. As these realizations continue unfolding, your soulmate cannot stop replaying one memory that suddenly feels completely different. It was a moment when you had every opportunity to seek revenge, expose someone's mistakes, or answer hurt with more hurt, yet you chose dignity instead. At the time, they never understood why. Today, they see that single decision as one of the clearest reflections of your character. It has shown them that your heart was never driven by proving others wrong. It was guided by a deeper desire to protect the person you were becoming. That truth has brought tears to their eyes because they finally understand that the greatest victory you ever achieved was not changing the people who hurt you. It was refusing to let those painful experiences change the goodness that has always lived within your heart. And listen carefully, because after hearing the true reason behind your choices, your soulmate could no longer remember the past the way they once did. Every difficult season, every painful conversation, and every moment when you quietly walked away instead of fighting back suddenly began revealing a meaning they had completely missed. They started realizing that your greatest responses were often the ones that made the least noise. While others expected dramatic confrontations, you answered with calmness. While people anticipated resentment, you continued treating others with respect. At the time, your soulmate believed those decisions came from simply wanting to avoid conflict. Now they understand something far more profound. You were protecting your own heart long before anyone else realized it needed protecting. Because your heart needs this right now. There is a quiet kind of wisdom that only grows inside people who understand that revenge may satisfy the moment, but rarely heals the soul. It may win an argument, but it cannot restore peace. Your soulmate is beginning to see that every choice you made was guided by something much deeper than emotion. You were not pretending the hurt never happened. You were choosing not to give that hurt control over your future. That realization has completely transformed the way they remember your journey. And listen to this. They found themselves revisiting moments they once misunderstood. They remembered times when someone spoke unfairly about you, yet you refused to respond with bitterness. They remembered occasions when you had every opportunity to expose someone's mistakes, but instead you quietly stepped away without seeking recognition or victory. At first, they questioned those decisions. They wondered if you were allowing others to take advantage of your kindness. They even believed you deserved to defend yourself more aggressively. But now they recognize something they never understood before. Your silence was never surrender. It was self-control. Your forgiveness was never permission for others to continue hurting you. It was freedom from carrying anger that no longer deserved a place inside your heart. The more they reflect, the more they admire the emotional discipline it took to make those choices. They realize now that responding with love after experiencing pain requires far greater strength than responding with revenge. Because your heart needs this right now. Real peace is not found by proving someone else wrong. It is found by refusing to let someone else's actions decide the kind of person you become. Your soulmate now understands that this quiet truth shaped every important decision you made. They remember how you continued encouraging people even after being disappointed. They remember how you still celebrated goodness in others instead of allowing your own wounds to make you suspicious of everyone. Looking back, they see someone who refused to let life's hardest moments steal the compassion that had always lived inside them. That realization has left them deeply emotional because they understand how easily your story could have turned out differently. They know many people would have chosen resentment. Many would have carried bitterness for years. Yet somehow you continued choosing hope instead. And listen carefully, because one particular memory refuses to leave their thoughts. It was not a dramatic moment that captured everyone's attention. It was quiet, almost unnoticed. Someone expected you to retaliate. They expected harsh words, anger, or an attempt to settle the score. Instead, you simply chose dignity. You allowed your actions to speak where arguments would have accomplished nothing. At the time, your soulmate thought you had let the situation pass too easily. Today they understand that you were demonstrating a strength they had never learned to recognize. They now see that true character is often revealed not when life is fair, but when it is unfair. It is revealed in the decisions people make after they have been wounded. As these memories continue unfolding, your soulmate feels an overwhelming respect growing inside them. They no longer admire you because you remained calm. They admire you because they finally understand what it cost you to remain calm. Every peaceful response required sacrifice. Every act of forgiveness demanded courage. Every decision to choose love instead of revenge protected something far more valuable than pride. It protected the goodness of your own heart. And now, as every memory takes on new meaning, your soulmate realizes they were not simply watching someone avoid conflict. They were witnessing someone quietly win a battle that most people never even realize exists. And listen carefully, because the explanation your soulmate heard did more than help them understand your choices. It completely changed the way they define love itself. Until now, they believed love was measured by affection, beautiful words, or staying close during the easy seasons of life. But as they reflected on everything you endured, they realized your greatest expression of love appeared during the moments when your heart had every reason to close itself forever. You were hurt, misunderstood, and disappointed in ways they are only now beginning to comprehend. Yet you never allowed those experiences to become an excuse for treating others with cruelty. That realization has left them searching through old memories with entirely different eyes. They now recognize that every time you chose understanding instead of retaliation, you were making a decision that demanded far more courage than anyone around you realized. Because your heart needs this right now. The world often mistakes kindness for weakness because it only sees the outcome, never the battle that took place before the decision was made. Very few people stop to consider how many sleepless nights, silent prayers, and difficult conversations with yourself are sometimes required before someone can genuinely let go of resentment. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that forgiveness is not something that happens in a single moment. It is a choice that must often be made again and again until peace finally becomes stronger than pain. Looking back now, they realize you were fighting that quiet battle long before anyone noticed the calmness they admired. And listen to this. They remember moments when you could have easily gathered people to support your side of the story. You had enough truth to defend yourself. You had enough reasons to explain every wound you carried. Yet instead of trying to win people's approval, you chose something completely unexpected. You allowed time, character, and consistency to speak louder than arguments ever could. At the time, your soulmate struggled to understand why you remained so composed. They thought perhaps you no longer cared. Now they know the opposite was true. You cared so deeply that you refused to allow temporary emotions to destroy the values you had spent years building. That discovery has humbled them more than they can explain. They now understand that self-control is often invisible, but it is one of the greatest demonstrations of inner strength a person can possess. Because your heart needs this right now. There is a profound difference between pretending pain does not exist and refusing to let pain become your identity. Your soulmate has finally recognized that you never denied what happened. You simply decided that your future deserved something better than endless bitterness. You understood that carrying revenge would only keep old wounds alive, while choosing love would slowly allow your heart to heal. That decision did not erase your memories, but it protected your spirit from becoming trapped inside them. The more they reflect on this truth, the more they admire the quiet wisdom that guided your life. They now see that your greatest victory was never proving yourself to anyone else. It was preserving the compassion inside your heart even when life repeatedly tested it. And listen carefully, because one memory has become impossible for them to forget. They remember watching you show kindness to someone who had once caused you deep disappointment. At the time, they thought your response made no sense. They questioned why you would offer respect to someone who had given you so little in return. Today, that same memory brings tears to their eyes because they finally understand what they were witnessing. They were not watching someone forget the past. They were watching someone rise above it. They were witnessing a heart that refused to become a reflection of the pain it had received. That single moment now represents everything they failed to understand about you. It has taught them that real strength is not found in getting even, but in remaining true to your values when abandoning them would seem easier. As this truth continues settling into their heart, your soulmate feels themselves changing from within. They are no longer asking how you managed to choose love over revenge. Instead, they are asking themselves whether they possess the same courage to protect their own heart from becoming hardened by life's disappointments. And in that quiet question, they realize that your example has become one of the greatest lessons they will ever carry. And listen carefully, because your soulmate has reached a place where this truth is no longer something they can quietly acknowledge and then forget. It has settled deep within their heart, changing the way they see not only your past, but also every decision they have made throughout their own life. They now realize that every time you chose love over revenge, you were carrying a burden that no one else could measure. It would have been easy to answer pain with more pain. It would have been easy to protect your pride by proving someone wrong or making others feel the same hurt they caused you. But instead, you chose something far more difficult. You chose to walk away with your character intact. You chose to protect your peace even when your emotions begged for justice. Looking back now, your soulmate understands that those quiet decisions were not signs of weakness. They were evidence of a heart that valued healing more than victory. Because your heart needs this right now. The strongest people are not always the ones who win every argument. Often, they are the ones who know which battles are no longer worth carrying. They understand that revenge keeps the heart connected to yesterday, while forgiveness creates room for tomorrow. Your soulmate finally sees that this wisdom guided your life long before they recognized it themselves. And listen to this. As they continue revisiting old memories, one realization continues growing stronger. They remember moments when people misunderstood your silence and assumed they had defeated you. They remember occasions when others expected you to react with anger, hoping you would lose control just long enough to become someone you were never meant to be. But you never gave them that satisfaction. Instead of allowing temporary emotions to define your future, you quietly protected your dignity. At the time, your soulmate thought those moments ended without consequence. Today, they understand those moments revealed your true character more clearly than any words ever could. They realize that your greatest response was never spoken aloud. It was demonstrated through the peaceful way you continued living your life, without allowing resentment to become your companion. That discovery has left them deeply emotional because they know how much inner strength that required. Because your heart needs this right now. There are victories that receive applause, and then there are victories that only the soul can recognize. The world celebrates people who overcome others, but it rarely notices those who quietly overcome themselves. Yet the second victory is often the greater one. Your soulmate now understands that every time you resisted the temptation to become bitter, you won a battle that very few people ever see. Every time you chose compassion instead of retaliation, you preserved something priceless inside yourself. You protected your ability to trust, to hope, and to love, without allowing past disappointments to steal those gifts away. That realization has transformed the way they understand resilience. They no longer believe resilience means pretending nothing hurts. They now understand it means refusing to let hurt decide the direction of your heart. And listen carefully, because another truth has brought tears to their eyes. They have stopped wondering why you never tried to settle every score. Instead, they have begun asking themselves whether they would have had the same courage if they had walked through your experiences. They are not certain they could have done what you did. They know how easy it is to react from anger and how difficult it is to respond from wisdom. That awareness has filled them with profound respect because they finally recognize that your calmness was earned through countless private battles no one else witnessed. Every peaceful decision required sacrifice. Every act of grace required discipline. Every moment you chose love demanded that you let go of the desire to make others feel what you once felt. Your soulmate now understands that those invisible sacrifices shaped the extraordinary person you became. They realize that your greatest achievement was never convincing others to change. It was refusing to let life's disappointments change you. As this understanding settles permanently into their heart, they feel themselves becoming different as well. They no longer want to admire your example from a distance. They want to learn from it. They want to carry forward the lesson that true strength is measured not by how much pain a person can return, but by how much goodness they can preserve after pain has tried to take it away. And in that quiet realization, they know they will never again look at your choices through the eyes of misunderstanding. Because they finally see that every decision to choose love over revenge was quietly shaping one of the most remarkable hearts they have ever known. And listen carefully, because this journey has brought your soulmate to one final realization that has changed them forever. They now understand that the greatest lesson you ever taught was never spoken through long conversations or dramatic moments. It was demonstrated every time you refused to let pain rewrite the person you were created to become. As they look back over everything that happened, they see a pattern they once overlooked completely. Whenever life gave you an opportunity to respond with anger, you answered with patience. Whenever disappointment invited bitterness into your heart, you quietly chose compassion instead. Whenever someone expected you to fight for revenge, you fought to protect your peace instead. Those choices seemed small when they happened, but together they reveal the extraordinary strength that has always lived within you. Your soulmate now realizes they were witnessing something truly rare without understanding its value at the time. Because your heart needs this right now. The world often teaches people that strength is proven by winning against others. Yet the deepest kind of strength is revealed when someone wins against the darkness, trying to grow inside their own heart. Your soulmate finally understands that this was the battle you were fighting all along. It was never about proving anyone wrong or making people regret what they had done. It was about refusing to surrender your character to circumstances you could not control. That truth has brought tears to their eyes because they now recognize how many unseen victories were hidden behind your quiet decisions. Every day you chose peace instead of revenge, you were protecting a future version of yourself from becoming someone you never wanted to be. And listen to this, they have begun seeing your life through an entirely different perspective. They no longer focus on the people who hurt you or the situations that tested your heart. Instead, they focus on the remarkable person who emerged from those experiences without losing the ability to love. They realize that many people carry pain into every future relationship, allowing old wounds to shape every new beginning. You chose a different path. You refused to make innocent people pay for the mistakes of those who came before them. You continued believing that kindness still mattered, that forgiveness still had value, and that love was still worth protecting. That realization has become one of the most powerful lessons your soulmate has ever received, because they now understand that healing is not forgetting the past. Healing is refusing to allow the past to steal the goodness waiting inside your future. Because your heart needs this right now. Some hearts become hard because life becomes difficult. Other hearts become softer because they decide that someone has to stop the cycle of pain. Your soulmate finally sees that you became that person. You chose to end the chain instead of extending it. You answered harshness with grace, disappointment with maturity, and betrayal with wisdom that few people ever develop. They now understand that your forgiveness was never approval of what happened. It was a declaration that your future deserved more than endless resentment. Every peaceful decision you made became an investment in the kind of life you wanted to build. Every act of compassion protected the gentle spirit that no painful experience was able to destroy. And listen carefully, because one final truth now lives permanently inside your soulmate's heart. They no longer admire you simply because you remained kind. They admire you because they finally understand how many private battles had to be won before that kindness became possible. They know your peaceful heart was not something you were simply born with. It was something you chose again and again after disappointment tempted you to become someone else. That choice has become the greatest inspiration they have ever witnessed. It has challenged the way they think, the way they respond to hurt, and the way they define genuine strength. As they move forward, they carry a quiet promise within themselves. They never want to confuse forgiveness with weakness again. They never want to mistake gentleness for the absence of courage. Most importantly, they never want to overlook the extraordinary power of a heart that chooses love when revenge would seem easier. Your example has become more than a memory. It has become a guide that will remain with them for years to come. And now they know with complete certainty that your greatest victory was never changing the people who hurt you. Your greatest victory was protecting the light within your own soul until it became strong enough to illuminate the hearts of others, including the one who has finally come to understand the beautiful truth behind every choice you made.